just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. Thought that I'd just drop by and let you know that I'm leaving town tomorrow. I'll cause you no more sorrow. I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. I brought the money like the lawyer said to do. It won't replace all the heartaches I've caused you. It won't take the place of loving you, I know. I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go.
Good morning. Welcome back to the channel, Oregon and Colombia, and welcome to yet another Coffee Time Live. It is so bright. I had to hang a blanket over these windows that are already screened with a white opaque diffuser. It's crazy. That tickled my throat. Rob, good morning. How you doing? Juka, greetings from Finland. Juka, what I saw this morning, as always, thank you very much. Thank you. And while we're at it, I also, before we got started, Mr. Anonymous, who I suspect is probably Jerry, but I'm not sure. Old Nels, greetings from Pennsylvania. And Dan, how you doing, Dan? How's the weather up west? Okay, what do we got? Lots of rain. It's been raining and raining and raining with intermittent sunshine, like now. It's kind of crazy. Reese, how you doing? Glad you could get here this morning. I know it's early for you. He lives out on the, what do they say, left coast. Speaking of rain, our dear leader here in Colombia, you like that? Our dear leader, he's announced a state of emergency in all of Colombia. Now, it's about the rain. And the thing is, yeah, we're getting a ton of rain. It's the rainy time of the year. Plus, we got the La Nina coming through and bringing all that Atlantic Ocean hurricane creating wet air. So, you know, it's particularly tough, but this is something that happens every handful of years. So why is he declaring a state of emergency? Not to say that there aren't some areas where there's some flooding and landslides, but those are like annual events. It's because, here's Mr. Cynical, I hear this, I go, okay, what's a state of emergency mean in Colombia? What's that all about? This is kind of weird. And so I look it up. It's actually a legal mechanism to gain access to funds that normally the government can't touch. So, okay. So it'd be interesting to see what that money is actually spent on. It's kind of a discretionary spending once you open it up. Again, maybe I'm just being cynical, but, you know, we got a dear leader now, so you got to be a little cynical. Reese, we're awake. Dan, it's been cool in Ibagué for the past 4 days. That's pretty awesome for there. It's been, the weather has been so perfect temperature, despite, you know, the rain. And nice and cool at night. I've been loving all year. The temperature has been just great. You know, for those people who came during that year where it was hotter than normal. And I mean, we hit some record of like 84, 85 degrees or something one afternoon. I mean, but it feels hot, you know, when it's up there here, particularly if you're in the sun. But this is the norm, and the temperature's been awesome. Mike Jarvis just caught it, left coast, rolling on the floor. How you doing, Mike? Peter Pan, exactly a ploy. Okay, we got another one up here. U17 Women's World Cup final is on, Colombia versus Spain. That's true. They have more competitive heart considering the men did not even qualify. Well, you know, it maybe, but sports is a big thing here, whether it's the men or women's team, and they kind of go all out. So I don't know. I'm not going to say that the men lack heart. You know, sometimes, well, heart overrides, supersedes talent in many cases. Sometimes if you don't have the talent, all the heart won't help you. So I don't know. All right, what else we got? Oh, Halloween. Tricky Halloween. Kind of sad for me in a way, because if you remember, I did a Halloween video going back probably 3 years, and it featured the person who became a very close friend and who committed suicide. So that was sad. But last night, I completely forgot that we're Halloween season. Just completely forgot. I've been so wrapped up, and I'll tell you about it, in some real positive things. But I hear this doorbell, I don't know, 8:30, and it's like, who's at my door? You know, so I go and open the door, and there's two cute little blonde-haired girls that are like this high, and they're like, and they spoke a little English, and one said something Halloween, and I said, "Oh, tricky Halloween," and they started laughing, and they started chanting the thing. Okay, it's like, crap. What do I have? So then I remembered I buy these little boxes of 8 of these wafer things for guests. You know, so if somebody comes, it's like I'll offer them one of these. I don't mind them, but I don't. You know, it's not something that I really eat. So I had a new box, or unopened box, and so I go and I grab a couple of those. They're pretty good size, so they're all happy, and they ran away. And I figured, well, that's it for the night. But I turned my patio light off. I went and sat down. I was watching something on TV. I was watching that Midnight Diner, that awesome Japanese show. I'm addicted to that thing. It's on Netflix. So about a half an hour later, 9:30, doorbell again. And I hear all this laughing. So I open the door, and there must have been 8-10 munchkins with some teenage girl, you know, shepherding them. And they're all laughing and carry on, and some of them started shouting out some English words, and everybody was having a good time. And you couldn't help but smile, and I'm going, crap, how many, you know, it's like, okay, this is all I have. And they said, oh, that's great. They were so grateful to get anything, I guess. So they must live here in this complex, you know, because if people come in, the guards are always going to call you and make sure there's permission. So, I mean, I don't know. But it was pretty cool, but it was also a little depressing. So, on a related bit of information, and all the things that you're writing here, I'll catch up to them when we get to the question and answer and stuff. I'll review these again. But on a related thing, the government sent an announcement out to all the stores like Falabella and all the Exitos that there was a recall. They had to take down a bunch of Halloween costumes. And I got a picture. It may be a generic picture, but I know at least one of these is one of the costumes. It's there. And they're to take these down. There's a Super Ninja, Sub-Zero, not sure what that is, a skeleton costume like you just saw, and Gamer. Those are the suits that you have to take down. And one of the problems is some of the costumes with masks, like the skeleton one, it's that plastic thing, you got eye holes, but there was no breathing hole, which, I mean, you could still breathe, but it's, you know, it's supposed to have a breathing hole. But the real key to it is these suits, apparently, if they get anywhere near a flame, they're as combustible as gasoline. I'm not going to say they were made in China, but somewhere maybe in the heart of that country. You know, we don't want to be racist and, you know, blame them for that and, you know, viruses and things like that. Might have our video taken down. But, so there was a big recall on these costumes, and I didn't see any, those first two girls that came, the little bitty ones, little cute little blonde girls like that, they didn't have any costume. But the next batch with a bunch of them, they were all decked out. They all had really cool, I think they're mostly homemade, but they were really well done. Like a lot of effort went into it. You know, when I was a kid, I told you there was a period of time like I was really poor, and I kind of raised myself. You know, didn't have a wolf around for a mommy, so I wanted to put together a costume and go trick or treating. Of course, the nearest house is like almost a mile away, and then there was like a half a mile or a mile to the next one. So it was quite a task. So I decided I was going to make a costume. So I think in, you know, kids' imagination, I wanted to be Lost in Space robot. So in my head, I'm thinking of all these awesome things. Well, the execution wasn't really there. So I got this cardboard box and I drew a bunch of things on it and some holes, put my arms through, and I don't even remember what I put over my head. The whole thing was pretty pathetic. But anyway, I go out trick-or-treating and everybody's so nice. I get to this one old lady's house and nobody goes trick-or-treating, so she brought me a can of like green beans or something, which in my situation I was really happy to get. So I ended up hiking a long way and coming back long way, I'm thinking probably maybe 5 or 6 miles one way. Then coming back, it starts snowing, the wind's blowing, and the snow was a wet snow, and the cardboard box started falling apart. But I had a good time, actually. But anyway, get sidetracked. You know, holidays are memory times, aren't they? All right, so what else we got? As you know, I went to Manizales yet again last week, I think. And met up with Tom there, said hello. I get to stay overnight on his couch, which was awesome. And well, the people that I was with, they stayed in this gorgeous hotel. I chose to, you know, just hang out with Tom. And his apartment, he's going to be leaving, and he's got all his furniture, and he can't figure out really the best way to ship it and all that. So I put together this little advertisement, and the first part is just kind of a orient yourself with Manizales. So I think even if you're not interested in an apartment or his stuff or whatever, I think you might like this little video clip. It's not very long, and I will show you that right now. Manizales, the most beautiful city in all of Colombia, the city in the clouds. Okay, so somebody asked me when I mentioned it last week, does he own it? Or is he trying to sell the apartment? And I said, no, here's the situation. He needs to leave because of because of a medical issue. He's got to relocate. He's staying in Colombia. He just has to go somewhere else. So he's got a lease on the apartment until February. Now, because of the situation, he can break the lease legally. He can break the lease, so that's not that big a deal. But he's got all this stuff, and shipping it where it looks like he's going to go would be very problematic. He doesn't want to get rid of his stuff. It took him a while to accumulate it. It's all very good, high end, very good quality, pretty much U.S. quality. But with the situation, if somebody were to be moving to Manizales, it might be useful to take the apartment. The lease is up come February if they decide they want somewhere else, but it is in like one of the best places in the city, and then you could just buy all this stuff at once and save months and months of, because it takes a while to find everything you want and it gets set up. So it was that thought in mind. Now, is there somebody out there with that particular situation? Who knows? But, if I hear about something that might benefit somebody, I'll throw it out there on the channel. It's just, why not, right? It could be useful for somebody. So let me catch up on a few of these before they get too far. I'll be there 13th to the 20th this month. It's in November, coming in Copa rather than Spirit. Definitely remember. Oh, Reese, the Halloween video, yes. The video, it was so much fun that night, but I don't want to think about it. Don, good morning from Colorado. How you doing? Remember SNL Johnny Invisible Pedestrian? Yeah, that's pretty funny. Freedom of speech on Twitter topic for the world, or will they ban in Colombia? It's funny because if I were to post something about said virus, or if I were to post something about politics, or God forbid, something positive about the Trumpster, I'd probably go to Facebook jail, because I see people all the time, it's like that. But if I'm Colombian and I post it up in Spanish, nada. You never really hear of Facebook jail going on around here. I guess there's different rules. I mean, it seems like you guys are targeted, or or Canada or England. It seems like are the primary targets of all of these restrictions that go on in social media. Now, I can't say that conclusively. It just appears to be the case, because the big topic there, it happens so much. And here, nobody talks about it because it doesn't really happen. And there's a lot of stuff that's said, but it's said about, maybe they talk about the Colombian president. And, they're not talking about, the name that shall not, the man who shall not be named in the United States. And maybe that's all the difference, which just goes to show you how arbitrary those things are. Thanks for the Manizales video. I might be interested. Okay. All right. So last week, I also mentioned that I had to go to Manizales. It was their 173rd anniversary when I was there, but I was leaving Armenia for the weekend of the celebration of the 133rd anniversary. So I missed the big parade, and the big parade is something that there's tons of that parade. Was a day-long event. It was actually 2 days. It was a parade on one day, most of the day, and a parade the next day. And the parade the next day had the Jeeps. Once a year, they call it Jeepao, Y-I-P-A-O, Jeepao, which is Jeep, which I've talked about and did a specific video once about the love of Jeeps here and why that is, and how embedded in the culture it is. And it's one of the reasons there's such a strong tie with Colombians in the United States. Some things don't get forgotten, and that was a very positive thing. Change the culture to a really beneficial, in a real beneficial way. So they had the parade. It's once a year, and it's pretty cool. I wish I could have been here, but there's a bunch of clips. They're unnamed. They're not sourced in any way. I could freely use them. So I put together some clips. I think it's about 5 minutes long to give you a sense. Now you may get the idea that somehow I zeroed in on certain maybe fair to look at females. Just remember, I didn't actually take these videos. I've stolen these, but these clips are stealable. They're just out there. Okay, so you ready? Here we go.
Monica!
Nice little synchronized dancing there. Okay, I want to give a shout out to Sammy and Tommy. I think I have that name right. As you know, I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to YouTubers floating around. I've explained reasons why. But one came to my attention, and the Sammy and Tommy, a man and woman, and they're traveling around Colombia. They're currently in the coffee region, and I'm loving their videos. They're professionally done. They're very interesting, and they don't do all the cardinal sins that it makes me want to vomit with most of the other ones. They're just showing what's going on with them in the moment. They're not making judgments or declarations about it's like this because I saw it once and all that crazy stuff. They're just doing their thing, going horseback riding and talking about the horses, and it's I find it refreshing, and they're very well done. And if you get a chance to look up Sammy and Tommy doing some Colombia videos, I have no idea about their background, where else they travel. I just know that they were in Bogota, a couple other places, and they've been doing some videos here in the coffee region. And I think you'll find them interesting. I did post one up on the Adventures in Grand Colombia Facebook page, so you can find it there. So what else we got? Got a guest coming in a couple weeks, and so I'm gonna be giving them a tour of some things in Quindío. We'll probably make a run to Manizales, so that'll be interesting. And I mentioned that this week I've been busy too. You know, my computer had blown up, and I got back, and there was fireworks, and been having all this stuff. And you know, some of you guys send me contributions, some on a regular basis, and I do put it to work. And I had kind of an emergency fund. I decided to use the emergency fund because it's been pretty much an emergency. I'd wanted for a long time a backup to the desktop system, and I got lots of pieces and parts, and I had access to other pieces of parts at a really good cost. Cases are almost giving them away. So I put together now a second unit that it's kind of bare minimum for live, but it'll do live videos as an emergency backup. And so and I did some maintenance work on the various hard drives that I have, and so I've done a lot of organizing and software work and updating and things like that. So I'm very pleased with myself. This probably means nothing to most of you, but when you're doing stuff like this, you really need backups to the backups kind of thing, because I mean, if you're filthy rich, then I can have that problem, no big deal. I'll just run out and buy another system and throw it in there and not worry about it, and I'm up and running a day later. Yeah, but I'm not in that situation. But I'm not hapless. You know, maybe a few years ago I was, but partially thanks to the exchange rate, mostly thanks to you guys that support this channel. If you're supporting the channel, then I'm thinking, then I should use that money for things like that and not just for my planned trip. I did keep enough aside for my planned trip. I haven't announced exactly when it's going to be because this came up, it kind of postponed it a little bit, but I also have people coming in that, you know, I spend 2, 3, 4 days or whatever it is with them. So I've got to kind of schedule around that. So I think I mentioned that it would probably be late October, which we're past, or sometime in November. It's still looking like sometime in November. So there's that. So it's actually really good. It's very positive news. I feel so much relieved to know that I've got a secondary backup system. And you wonder, it's like, well, why didn't you have that before? Well, because before it would have felt like I was just throwing money away. But when you actually get burned on the situation, then you realize Yeah, it would be a good idea. Okay, it has come to that time.
It's Q&A time. It's time to start asking your questions. Remember, 4 question marks first, then ask the question.
All right, we see, I'm looking over the past comments. Willie's Jeep and Salento, Sam and Peg, hello. Reese, I have stents. Oh, you were talking about altitude. Reese, don't worry. It's a particular thing with his situation. Stents shouldn't matter. And in his case, there's an issue. But when it comes to actual elevation, for most people in most situations, you have to get up over 8,000 feet to have serious consequences. I learned that myself when I was living in Ecuador. And I did a lot of, well, the doctor told me a bunch of things, and then I go back and I dig deeper. And of course, I wasn't trying to verify everything he said. I was trying to really wrap my arms around and understand better. But everything he told me was true, but then I learned a whole lot more about it. It's pretty interesting, actually. I decided to log in with my phone. Well, glad to have you. Coleman, hello from San Jose, California. Coleman, I don't have it here, but I got an email this morning, but I was in the midst of preparing, and all I saw was Coleman on it, and it looked like you sent in a contribution, and if you did, thank you very much. Let's see, what do we got here? I lived in Manizales for 5 years without a problem, but slowly things started happening. The angiogram didn't show. Cardiologist recommended lower altitude, and it worked. Anyone in Armenia know a hand specialist surgeon? I don't, but I'm sure they're here. Everything medical exists here, and I'm sure you could just go see any doctor and they would be able to refer you. Medicine's good here. It is not, you know, I even hate to use the term. It's not third world. It's real medicine, and it ranks higher than U.S. and Canada. Hello, Dan. I was watching the Colombian game. Life goes on. Okay. Jay, South Florida. How you doing, Jay? Ron, Armenia, 5,000 feet. Manizales, 7,000. Yeah, that's basically it. It's not a big deal. I have lung damage. It's why when COVID first came out, I was kind of freaking out. And for those first number of weeks, I was extremely cautious. I won't go into why, but I've got damaged tissue in my lungs. I don't have full capacity. I'm a fat guy. I'm an old guy. You know, I fit the category of I'd probably keel over dead in a day, you know. And altitude is of the same way. Now, I lived in Ecuador for 3 years, but it was only in that last year where I had an issue with altitude, because real altitude problems, it takes time to show up. But the problem came about because of the actual lung damage. And if you have lung damage, or if you have certain heart conditions or certain other medical conditions, things that are affected by breathing, then a lower altitude, like 7,000 feet, can affect you. That won't necessarily, but it's possible. You know, I could not live in Cuenca, Ecuador any longer unless I wanted to live a very short life, because you can't get pneumonia over and over and over. You know, you get it, you recover, 2 weeks later you got it again. That's what was going on. And every time that happens, you lose more healthy lung tissue. And that's what I was going through that last year. I came here, I was instantly relieved. But if you remember, I went first for the first 3 months, I went to Manizales. And it was a relief there. As a matter of fact, it was in a day or two, then the sickness that I went with cleared up. And as long as I was in Colombia, it didn't return. Then when I went back to Ecuador, I got sick again. And then I moved here, and I've been sick like that since. I've had some complications, but nothing to do with altitude or, general illnesses like pneumonia. So for most people, it's not a big deal. All right, we got an actual question here. How cold is it? Is it getting at night? Humidity after the rain? It's not very humid here because there's always that breeze. And even when you get humid, there was somebody visiting here from, I think it was Texas, maybe Florida. And we were having lunch. And to me, it was pretty humid. And he would say, oh, this is nothing. I didn't even notice it. Okay. As compared to a lot of places, I mean, but for me, it was an unusually humid day. We don't usually have the kind of humidity that you would even notice. Like if you go out and it's hot, you don't have like sweat running down your back kind of hot. The humidity really doesn't come into play, even with all the rain, which is, maybe kind of strange, but it's just a unique kind of climate that we're living in. How cold does it get? I would say, I mean, I do know, but specifically on any given day, I would say it's been running down around 62 degrees in the evening, maybe even get as low as 60. I love it, but I used to, in the wintertime, sleep with the bedroom window open. I mean, not wide open, but like that much. I just love that cold air. And it's nothing like that here. As a matter of fact, my windows are open in the bedroom, and I run a tower fan in there pointed at the bed 24/7. I just love that breeze. It helps me sleep. So even when it's cool, I don't get up and turn that tower fan off. It's not a big deal. But I often won't sleep with a blanket over me. Not because I'm hot. I'm comfortable that way. And I have been pulling it's not a heavy blanket, but a thin blanket over me the last couple months. Coleman, you're well. So it was you. Okay. Thank you very much. Sam and Peg, I know that Colombia produces super and very, very qualified doctors. I was merely asking if anyone can refer. Yeah, I know. When I respond, I try to answer other questions other people may have at the same time when that topic comes up. Yeah, most people know the reputation of the quality of medicine in Colombia, but a lot of people don't. So I try to frame that out whenever that kind of topic comes up, because you just have this weird idea that it's, some people have this weird idea that, they're practicing jungle medicine here and, it's all witchcraft, and it's just not like that. Mr. II, or LL, good morning. Good chance for me to return to paradise middle of November. It's about time. I want to ask you if Bucaramanga is cheaper living than Armenia or even Manizales. We still got to get together. Here's the interesting thing. When I went to Bucaramanga last time, a couple years ago, it was, in ranking, it was Armenia cheapest, Manizales slightly more, and Bucaramanga was slightly more than that. Now, Tom went and spent a week or two there recently and sent me a bunch of ads for certain apartments and things like that. And I was remembering how they were. The prices haven't gone up, where here in Manizales, things have been creeping up a little bit. And he showed me this one apartment. It was 1.3 million. That here would be 1.5 and Manizales would be 1.8. So some things are actually cheaper there. Now, I wouldn't say that there's certain fluctuations that take place. So in the big scheme of things, I think you'll find that Manizales and Bucaramanga are probably similar in the long run. And Armenia will always be cheaper because, you know, we're just kind of that little less than 300,000 population hole in the wall, which is pretty cool if you think about it. But wife and I will be in Armenia all summer 2023. Would enjoy meeting some of you who live there, especially Lauren, for some coffee. You know, I try to get the guys here to put together like their own Facebook page for meets and, you know, things like that. I don't know. It's like everybody's just living their, what do they say, living their best life, and nobody really wants to put energy into it. And I don't either, because I'm busy with what I do. But, you know, if somebody's around and I have time, I'm always up for coffee, lunch, something like that. Reese, you leaving so soon? Oh, we're getting close to done anyway. I'll see you later. What do we got here? Oh, good Lauren. Do they have osteopath doctors in Colombia? Now you're just pulling my leg, right? Right? What? I mean, what did I just say? Yeah. Of the top 10 hospitals in South America, 5 of them are in Colombia. Yeah, that's probably the case. I'm dubious about rankings in general, but I would say, yeah. I mean, I haven't had to have any kind of serious medical thing, so I don't have firsthand experience. I've accompanied people. I even did a video with my friend who committed suicide. She had a pretty serious problem, and she was afraid, and I went with her to, they call it a clinic, but it was really just a private hospital. And the amount of equipment they had in that place, and the kind of doctors and how they handled the whole thing was, I was just blown away. It was amazing. And you've got Tom, and I know a bunch of people that have had various things done, and everybody says the same thing. I mean, they've never had care as good as here. There's no lack of equipment. It's funny, I mentioned this before. You meet doctors here, I've met some. It seems like they're all trained in the United States, and you find a good portion of them, like John Hopkins and things like that. Those are the kind of doctors we have here. But in the U.S., and I'm not saying it's good or bad, but in the U.S., it's like all the doctors I would run into were basically from India and degreed there, or they would have these Caribbean island degrees or something, which, you know, they're doctors, and I'm not saying that they weren't any good. It's just, it's funny that you got all these, you know, outliers in the U.S. for doctors, and you go in for, you know, a doctor in Colombia, and it's like you got John Hopkins up on the wall. I saw Wes did a video on Armenia, gave it a big thumbs up. Well, yeah, you could do that. It really kind of annoyed me. It was a bunch of crap. It was a lot of things in it were just out and out faults because of my pet peeve that you shouldn't be putting out as information something that you don't know what the hell you're talking about. There were a lot of things in that video that were flat out bogus. They didn't know any better. They felt compelled to make snap judgments, and, you know, they were wrong. Which is why when I mentioned the Sammy and Tommy videos, they don't do that. They just portray things, this is what it is. And they're not making, you know, concluding remarks about the culture or this or that. They're just portraying things exactly as they are. And I just love that. As far as the guy himself, I don't really know much about him. I thought he does videos well. I think he seems to be very personable. I hate when people fall into that trap of trying to be an expert on something that they're not, and therefore they feel compelled to put out information when in reality they really don't have a clue. I hate it so much. That's why you guys that have watched for a long time, I'll make mistakes once in a while, but when I talk about something in particular, like I do a video about a certain topic, or I go to a certain town, let's say, and I haven't been there before, like when I went to Bucaramanga. I spent 2 weeks studying Bucaramanga before I went. And when I went there, I was taking video clips, but before I edited and put those things together, I talked to a number of people from Bucaramanga, Colombians, about the things I was going to talk about. And I got different opinions. And, you know, so I really did my homework before I started throwing things out about Bucaramanga. Consequently, when I get feedback from Colombians about things that I do, I get pretty much positive feedback because it's real. But if I were to just go and shoot from the hip and proclaim it as this is true what I'm telling you because I've been here for an hour and a half, I'm giving you a bad idea because, you know, blind man and the elephant, or something like that, where he feels the tail and decides it's a snake, or, you know, I think it's a horrible tactic. I think it's amateurish, and it just drives me crazy. It has nothing to do with whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. I don't know. Like I said, he seems amiable, and if he didn't do that, if he did a little bit of homework, I'd probably admire the guy. But I don't know. It just bugs me. Fell into a trap. I don't like to talk about other people generally, but I was exposed on this, so what can I say? As a Canadian in Armenia, I was impressed with emergency eye care with the help of Alejandra, retinal, inexpensive, and available quickly in good hands. Not a huge fan. I don't know. I'm not telling people, you know, I'm not attacking the guy. I'm attacking his tactics that he used in that video of Armenia, and it just really pissed me off. Let's see. I don't want to gang up on the guy because I really have nothing against him. I just that's why I don't watch most YouTubers. It's like they're trying to portray a knowledge that they don't actually have. And then, you know, the other half are out there just talking about, you know, it's like you would think it was nothing but hookers on every street corner, and they're going to talk about it. Okay, there's beautiful women here. You can talk about it, but do you really want to build your channel around video after video about where the red light districts are and things like that? You know, so it's those combinations of things that they're exploiters is what they are. Trying to be something that they're not, trying to gather an audience based on, you know, it's like hookers, and you want to talk about hookers, fine. You know, it's like, I won't hate you for that. But if you're going to do 100 videos on the same topic, do you really think I want to watch that? Don't you think that would get old, even if I were interested in where the hookers are? So, why you guys get me going like this? He felt like it was dangerous, but nothing happened. Your feelings do not make a place dangerous. Yeah, that was one of the things. I know exactly where he was. It certainly wasn't a dangerous area at all. And it really bothered me when there was this old couple. They were very nice to him. They walked out, and they were still within hearing distance, and they started mocking them, you know, making fun of them. They were just nice old people, and they were nice to you. Why are you going to mock these people? It really pissed me off. And then, well, I don't want to go through all the things, but, you know, it's like the women here aren't so much darker than they are in Manizales. Guess what? They're the same people. You know, it was just all just it was all just bunk. It was all just bad information. Okay, what do we got here? I just try to watch all videos on Colombia to get the most info I can. Always contemplating moving there. Yeah, I agree. I did the same thing, and I completely agree with that. Which is why if people are showing videos about a place, they should take the extra care to try to give out accurate information, because a lot of people are making life decisions on these things. It's better to change fund at Davivienda and click no when withdrawing out of an ATM. Yes, that's correct. Or going to La 14 and 19 with the guys that exchange. No, don't do that. I've done it there before and it was good too. Thoughts? I think it's a bad idea. You will never get the actual rate with them. And while some of them are okay, some of them are just flat out criminals. They're local loan sharks, and they prey on people that are in a desperate situation, as loan sharks will do. And then when they can't pay, they will physically hurt them, break into their house, steal things, and the people feel too afraid to say anything about it. They're despicable people. And some of those are the people that are hanging out on the corner there, doing exchanges. I don't want to support that. Plus, you're not getting your best rate. If you go to Davivienda and press no, you're going to get your best rate possible. Hear no evil already, please. Okay. All right, I'm sorry it took an ugly turn. I'm feeling bad that I spoke ill of somebody, and while I didn't mean it to be about somebody personal, I mean when it comes right down to it, it probably was speaking ill about somebody because they actually, it was their work. And I'm certain that I can be criticized in a lot of different ways. I just tend to speak my mind, for better or worse. And, that's, you ask, and I'll answer. Are there any local advisories to know about for safety in flights, aside from Raymageddon? No, everything's pretty cool. Davivienda, press no. Okay, when you use the ATM for Davivienda, you can take up to 2 million pesos out at one time. And you put your card in, and you go through the menu, is it checking or savings, and, you do all that. And then it'll get to a screen, it'll have, okay, here's the amount that you want, and here's the exchange service, and it's going to cost you this. Do you agree with that? And if you press yes, you've given authority for them to take a certain part of that transaction and put it in their pocket. If you press no, then they give you back that money that they would have taken, or they never take it at all, and the transaction proceeds without them taking a cut. Now, if you feel the need to support the bank, they're the second largest bank in Colombia, feel free, go for it, press yes. You'll lose 200-300 pesos per dollar by doing that. Not as much as Bank of Colombia, but if you press no, then you're going to get whatever the exchange rate is. They don't do it every second, but they do it at least 3 or 4 times a day. So if this morning the exchange rate was 4,800, and you go at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and if it hadn't updated, you're going to get 4,800. Even if you look on your phone that second, maybe it was 4,820. Okay, so it's not that there is sometimes a lag, particularly when the exchange rate is jumping rather quickly. There'll be a lag, but they're giving it to you as the last time it was calculated. which is a few times a day. That's close enough. And there's no fee. Hey, thanks for everything you do. It's all good. Have a great day. Thank you, Don. Appreciate it, as always. Candio, what? Your advisory thing. No, everything's cool here. Towns to stay away from that have become a little more dangerous. Kimbaya is, if you go there in the daytime and you hang out in the center and all that, you'll be fine. But evenings, it's become a little more dangerous there. Montenegro has always been a relatively dangerous place, and Latabaida, it's not a place I'd want to go at night. But outside of that, everything's pretty cool. Those are little towns around the state. Any indication Petro may change auto import regulations? Nothing's been said about that. I had hoped that by this week I could do a kind of a summary of how his presidency's been going. And with everything that I've been doing, it's been problematic to get to it. But this morning, I got everything pretty much done. I had about 10 minutes, so I went looking to see. He hasn't been very active, and that's a positive thing. And the only thing I found, and that's how I ran into this advisory thing, and did a quick check on what that meant, or not advisory, but the emergency declaration. He's been pretty mellow, so that's good. Let's just hope his whole presidency is like that. Do you do this when you have an account with DJI? No, this is if you're coming, like I have a Capital One account and I withdraw my money from my U.S. bank with an ATM card. That's what I live off of. I live off of the ATM card. So if you're coming here and you have Capital One, for example, or pick a name, Davivienda is the bank to use. If you have a Davivienda card, well, that would be a whole different ballgame, because then you would have money already in the bank that's in pesos, so there's no exchange that comes into play. You wouldn't even see that screen. I applied for Social Security through Santo Domingo. Excellent service. They call you very easily. Yep. Are you using your own credit card? I'm not sure. I think that's what you meant. And I use a debit card for that. So there's no cash advance fees or anything. Will they exchange Argentinian pesos in Armenia? Probably, but in Kalima Mall, on the very first floor, which I guess you would say is the basement floor, there's a kiosk there that does cash exchange. I would check that place. Because first of all, I thought their exchange rate was very reasonable. It's a couple hundred, I think 300 pesos off the current rate. For an exchange place, that's not bad. But I remember they had a list of other currencies. So I would check that out. Plus, it's legitimate business. We'd like to see a video explaining money, how to not have to open an account. Also have Capital One account. Well, I've done those, but I could do an update, particularly after what I said last week about I've created misunderstandings with people because I draw these conclusions about you should never open an account, you should never have a car, you should you never buy property. Well, I clarified those last week, but it'd probably be good to make a video that's always there to explain these, because when I say those things, I'm really talking about people that are moving here, and there really should be a period of time before you're not equipped without living here for a period of time to make the decision of whether that's something you want to do or not, and what the repercussions may or may not be. And I can't even tell you, because different situations have different issues behind them. But after you're here for a period of time, then you pretty much know by then if it's something that you want to go with, whether it's open a bank account or whether you want to have a car or whether you want to buy some property. So what I say is my advice, if you're moving here, even if you think that you know, what's the rush? Hold off. Keep your U.S. account. Keep everything kind of status quo. And what if you move here and a year from now you say, oh, to hell with this, I want to move back to California, where life is good. Life is beautiful all the time. And we're happy to see those nice young men in their clean white coats and their, anyway. Flowers and trees and chirping birds and basket weavers who sit and smile and twiddle their thumbs and toes. So, yeah, hold off on your decisions for a period of time, and that's probably what I should say. Yes, thanks. Okay. All right. Not a bad idea to maybe make a standalone video about those things. All right, last call for questions. It's been an hour. I'm not in a hurry. My Bills game doesn't hit until tonight, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock my time, I think. So that's pretty cool. My microphone sounds harsh. Did you get a new one? Definitely some distortion. No, I didn't. Let me move this. It's a new setup, and I've used the old settings on the soundboard. Tell me if that's any better, and if it's loud enough. It's difficult for me. I have to do a recording, then I have to play it back and listen to it in order to, because I can't really hear what's coming across. Still loving your videos. Well, I'm glad for that. I hope they serve you well. That does sound better. Okay, well, that's good. That's good to know. It sounds super. All right. Okay. Thanks for that feedback. I really appreciate that, especially when everything's all new setup like this. It takes a while to get things dialed in. The reason I ask is because there's a black market for Argentinian pesos, and I was unable to change in Buenos Aires, and I'm stuck with the money. That would be the only thing. I mean, obviously, I haven't had that situation myself, but just off the top of my head, I would give them a try. You know, in Manizales, there was a particular place that was well known as a money exchange place. You went down, they operated almost like a little bank. You got a window that you walk up to. It was pretty cool. In Armenia, I never saw that. And I'd ask people, and they would always say, go down to La Catorce and find one of the criminals, you know. Well, you know, I'm not a fan of that anyway. I mean, who knows? Maybe they follow you home. Who knows? Why invite trouble if you can avoid it? But then they open that one up in the basement, and you know, it's been doing pretty well there. I had one person who used them and said they're ripoffs, and I said, why? Well, we got a lousy rate, and I think it was like $200 to $1 they took. I said, but no, you don't understand. It was just a matter of understanding. It's like you hadn't done this before. It also takes a little while to register the scale of money here. And I'll see people, they'll argue about 500 pesos as if it's the end of the earth when you're talking about pennies. So in the basement, well, it's in what you would call a basement floor. It's an actual floor, and it walks out to the parking garage. But there's a bunch of things down there. There's some little restaurants. It's like a mini food court. It's where you pay for your parking or get it comped. If you use the parking garage, it's free if you have a receipt if you bought anything in the mall. There's the guy who makes homemade apple cider, which is really, on a whim, I bought one day because he stopped me. We're having a nice little conversation. He didn't speak English, but, you know, sometimes I'll get a chance to practice English with somebody who's going to be patient, and he was. And so as a thank you, I bought his little bottle of apple cider. And people, you know, say, well, you can drink that. Well, I'd never, who wants to drink, not cider, vinegar, apple cider vinegar, vinagre. Who wants to drink vinegar? But I decided to give it a try, and it was actually really tasty. I don't know what apples he's using, because whatever apples he's using, you can't buy in the store, but it was really good. But so anyway, he's there. There's a place that sells all kinds of plasticware. It's probably all Chinese stuff. I know there's a bunch of things down there. So when I say basement, it's not like it's deep, dark dungeon kind of thing. It's just, you know, below the first floor. It's Kalima Mall on Centenario. Kalima. I live right next door to it. Let's see what else we got. I guess I'll take the Argentinian pesos to Armenia and see if I can exchange. Doesn't hurt to try. Yeah. Which mall? What, Carrera? Carrera 6. It's Centenario. If you're in a taxi, just say there's 2 Kalimas areas without the second O there. Colima. If you're in a taxi, just say Kalima Comercial Centro Centenario. Kalima, that's it. Do you think exchange rate will get to 5,000 by the end of the year and stay? Probably not. It goes up and down. I mean, if you've been here any period of time, it's been on a great trend, but you know, they also fall. Like lately, it's been 100 off of, well, about almost 200 off the peak of what it was. Will it go up again? Maybe, but also might fall. Truth is, we don't know. We don't know. You got a lot of experts out there that are proclaiming, but they got a 50-50 chance. And half the time they're wrong, so figure that one out. What are your thoughts on Container City? I love Container City. I think it's awesome. It's a bunch of containers stacked there, but you also have a couple actual buildings there, and it's a complex for, I would say, adult entertainment. And I don't mean strippers, because that's not, but it's all these different foods, like there's sushi and chicken wings and seafood and steak and burgers and fries and Mexican, and you have all these kind of mixtures of food all in one place. But you'll also have some bars and music and dancing, and in one of the buildings you got pool tables that you just get up and use. They don't have coin slots. I think it's a very interesting place, and I take guests there, not every time, but fairly often. And there's another place, what's it called? Miramar. It's if you're at the Super Enter, walk towards the mall, walk a little bit farther on the other side of the street, just past the little used car place. There's a little area. You'll see the parking, and you'll see these corrugated boxes with, you know, painting murals on them. If you go in there, on the other side of it, they're right on the edge of the ravine, the canyon. So the view is amazing. And in there is kind of like the blue collar version of Container City. You can go and grab a beer and maybe some arepas or empanadas or chicken wings or something, and hang out with people. It's very, you know, you can go with your work clothes, for example, but it's a very cool place. It's kind of the same idea, only for us people. Yeah. You want to know where Dar Papaya is? It's directly across the street from Kalima Mall. Yes. Yeah, that's the one. Kalima Centenario Central Commercial. Well, I would actually, you got them kind of jumbled. It's Kalima Commercial Centro, and then it's on the road Centenario, which is Carrera Seis. When I arrive in November, I need a place to stay for a couple of days until I find an apartment. Any recommendation? Send me an email. What happened to your apartment? I thought you had an apartment next door. I thought you mocked me all those times for living in my old apartment building, and again, I was sad because I had to leave. What happened? What's up? Okay, we've gone over. Not necessarily a bad thing. For Anonymous, I want to thank you, Coleman, for the contribution through a different method. Juka, as always, if you're still here. I appreciate you guys, and because of you guys, I'm sitting here with a backup now. So that's pretty awesome. All right. And all my little features are working. I don't know if you guys noticed where last week I didn't have them. Well, they're working again. We're going to end it here. And Turtle, see ya. Don, a veteran fan that has land for sale east of Medellin. Can I plug his land sale offer next time? Probably not, because I really don't have much to do with Medellin. I'm really kind of a coffee region thing. I don't know. Send me an email. I'll take a look at it. But everything around Medellin, it's usually a trap. It's usually overpriced, or there's, I don't know. That's it. We'll see you next week. Go Bills.
Wow.